All right, so it's 8:04. We can actually do start. Happy to have you here, Chris and Moses. We have about 62 persons who registered for this webinar. Hopefully they join in later. If not, the recording can be shared much later. But yeah, we have to get started. Welcome to PMXschool webinar on how to become a B2D product marketer, how to thrive in developer-centric marketing. A little bit of introduction. My name is Trust Onyekure. I am currently head of development marketing at Eniot Finance, been at it for over 7 years, and I'm excited to teach and describe in more better terms what B2D marketing means and how you can pursue a career in B2D, what areas are available for you, and how PMS School can help. We will be discussing around these items. One, of course, we're going to highlight what B2D product marketing means, what developer first and developer plus product means, what B2D marketers actually do, the skills you need and career paths, and then how PMS School can help. And then we can take questions. It's going to be a very, interesting conversation. 40 minutes or less. Questions could take more than that, but this class webinar is not meant to be so long. We just have to have a snappy conversation around these items. All right, so let's get started. The first item on the agenda, obviously, is introductory of B2D. What does B2D marketing means? I know that I did receive a couple of DMs and emails regarding what is B2D? Is it the same as B2C, B2B? What's the difference actually between all forms of marketing and B2D? Well, before we understand what B2D marketing means, let's, get it from the background. What does product marketing mean in itself? And then we can now proceed gradually into B2D. So product marketing, it's a subfield of marketing. It's a type of marketing where we craft messaging and go-to-market flow promotion of a product, according to Wikipedia. And then it's also similar to what Product Marketing Alliance, PMA, is also saying, that product marketing is a process of bringing a product to market and overseeing its overall success. So what that means in essence is that when we take any product or service, in this case, and we try to promote it, either through ads, either through content, whatever effort or activity we're trying to do to take a product to users is called product marketing. That's what it means in general. Now, product marketing commonly has two areas, which is what we know, and that is what we call B2C and B2B. These are the two most common areas of product marketing. If we have 100 product marketers in the world, 70%, 80% of them are either in B2C or B2B. But what does it mean? What is B2C? What is B2B? Well, B2C means business to customer, and B2B means business to business. It basically means that any product that is going to be used by an individual, it's a B2C kind of product marketing. For example, if we purchase, say, an iPhone is a very good example of a product that is B2C. Now, iPhones are being used by individuals. And so any person who's been hired by Apple to promote the iPhone is into B2C product marketing. And so whatever product is going to be used by an individual is B2C. Another example of a B2C product, it's, let's say, items that has to do with either food. It could be an accessory for the kitchen. It could be, a gas cooker. It could be whatever item for the kitchen. You're selling to an individual that can use it. That's B2C. But now, when it comes to B2B, once we now begin to sell something to businesses, for example, a SaaS application for CRM, a CRM software is mostly used by businesses. And so individuals do not use those products. Only businesses use those enterprise level products. It's called B2B. So we'll market to corporate persons, either to a CTO or a CEO, any C-level person who is our customer or user if we're in the B2B marketing space. But B2C has to individual use cases, and that's what it means generally. But now, over the years, this has been the core focus, B2C, B2B. But now became, a new, although it hasn't been new in itself, but then it is new in terms of now beginning to segment it as a different type of marketing. That's what we have B2D, right? So B2D now came into the picture to say, okay, we have two audiences, which is customers and businesses, but developers are a different kind of audience. Let's create a different, side of marketing called B2D. Now, B2D actually now means business developers as B2D. So marketing to developers. And so any product that is designed to be used by a developer or a community of developers is called B2D. So if we are marketing, let's say, an API or even an educational product that is meant for developers, we are in the B2D space. Now, B2D is also known as developer marketing. If you look at job openings, you definitely see developer marketing as a role. So officially, in the corporate sense of B2D and job markets, it's known as developer marketing. But if we're trying to use the traditional, concept, we can say is B2D product marketing or developer marketing. So what does this mean? I think I've highlighted a little bit. But when it comes to definition, this actually as clear as it can get, right? So the first is that developer marketing is marketing that deals with developer audiences, software developers. And so that is developer marketing. Any products, any service that is meant to be used by a developer or a highly technical audience is developer marketing. The second definition also highlights it. It says that development marketing is a niche in marketing designed to develop awareness, adoption, advocacy of a developer product. Now, the question now will come is, what is a developer product? And that is where developer first and developer plus companies come into the picture. We know, for example, when we say B2C or B2B, we can easily guess what kind of product falls under those categories. Now, there are two kinds of companies that hire B2D product marketers or hire developer marketers too. The first is developer first companies or products. These are companies whose primary focus is to create and sell products specifically designed to be used by developers. What does it mean? It means that the number one core concept of that company is building and creating products for developers. If you remove developers from the company as users, the company is going to fold. Now, example of this is Stripe, right? Stripe initially began as a developer first company. But now they have is a payments company, so business can use that to receive payments as payment gateway. Developers can use also as API to create payment infrastructures into their applications. Twilio is heavily developer first, basically for telecommunication, phone call API. If you remove developers from Twilio, the business will not stand. That's what we mean developer first. Any company whose primary focus or primary users are developers is a developer first company. MongoDB is a database for developers, right? So if developers do not exist, the business will not stand. A front-end master is educational product for developers, for front-end developers, as the name entails. Android is also, although it also can be used by B2C, I have Android phones, Android products, but then the core operating system is used by developers, right? And the Unity is a developer framework for game developers. So all of these are examples of developer-first companies that hire B2D product marketers. So the reason why it is called developer-first is because their primary focus is to create and sell products for developers. If you take developers out of the picture, they hardly will exist. That's why they call it developer first. The second type of companies are developer plus companies. Unlike developer first, these companies, their primary focus is B2B, but or B2C. But then they have a secondary service or product designed for developers. Microsoft is an example. Microsoft is heavily B2B. We have the PowerPoints, we have the entire Microsoft suite for businesses. But then they have certain developer tools that developers can use. For example, they are the ones sponsoring GitHub. They also initially did buy Linda, which is now LinkedIn Learning. They merged together. And so there are lots of services that they have. For example, there's Microsoft Azure for the cloud services and APIs they're having into the picture, data AI infrastructure to come into the picture. They initially bought the Gameloft. Yeah, they bought Gameloft, one of the biggest game companies. And so they also have to, integrate Unity into their framework for developers. So if you remove developers from Microsoft as the core users, they will still survive because they have other products that are primarily for businesses. So that's an example of a B2B, sorry, a developer plus companies. Google too is the same. They are heavily B2B, but they also have, B2C product like the Google Pixel is a phone, a mobile phone, the smartphone designed by individuals. So they have a product for B2B and B2C. For B2B, we have the Google Cloud infrastructure, Google Docs, spreadsheets, also Google Sheets as well. But they also have a developer product like Firebase. They have APIs, APIs for Google Cloud AI, and so many other infrastructure for developers that they can also sell and get developers involved. But if you remove developers out of the picture, they will still survive using B2B and B2C sites of service they have. Some say first, Amazon, the same thing. We know Flutterwave, based in Nigeria, they are heavily B2B. They help payments, payment gateway to receive payment from different countries into Africa or Nigeria. But then they have an API where developers can build infrastructure into their own applications. Now, if we remove that API out of Flutterwave, would they die? No, they will still survive based on business using their API to sell a payment link to get payments and shops to get the payments from different countries. But then they have a developer product API for developers to use. The same thing with MoneyPoint. I think most of the fintechs in Nigeria, Africa are all developer plus because they have APIs where developers can use and build infrastructure. The same thing with Apple. We mentioned Apple has the iPhone that they can sell, but then they have iOS developers who build apps for the Apple Store and so many other places too. So all of these companies are examples of developer plus. Anyone hiring developer marketers or B2D product marketers is going to hire them either from these two places. Either you're being hired by a developer plus company or a developer first company. It's essential to know which company is hiring you. As a full video on this on the PMX YouTube channel that describes why it's important to know which company is which and how you can tailor your CV or interview to match any of these companies you want to interview for or get hired in. So it's very good to know what kind of companies B2D product marketers can work in or have been hired to work in. Now, the obvious question is what exactly do they do, right? So yes, we talked about that they can market product, but what exactly are they doing in terms of marketing? Now, there are so many things that they do, right? But there is a very short list. First, they create messaging and positioning. If Apple wants to launch a new iPhone, right? Probably iPhone 17 coming next year or whatever they want to launch it. There's usually an event, the Apple event, where they announce the new features, all of those things. That is the work of product marketing. So they try to get the market into the product by different ways. What kind of messaging do we, ensure that our users perceive us to be? How do we position it? That is what B2D people also do as well, but in a technical sense, way of doing it. They plan, execute product launches, similar events. Do we run ads? How do we launch this product into the market? That's their headache. They think about it every time. Thirdly, developer marketers create developer content. You can see if you go to Udemy and you go to LinkedIn Learning or you go to YouTube, you see a lot of developer content. That's what B2D marketers are doing. They create content that targets developers. Sometimes they hold free boot camps and free, educational programs just to get developers to use their content or learn from their content. Eventually, they get into the products. The way you market, B2B products or B2C products is not the same. We'll talk about that. I think there's the video on PMX YouTube channel has a lot of free explanations that we gave on there and how that's going to work. So fourthly, they execute go-to-market. Now, every product marketer writes a go-to-market strategy for all products. It basically means what are we going to do before launch, during launch, after launch, three phases. So they all think about before launch, what should we do? During the launch, what should we do? After launch, what should we do? That's what, what's contained in the go-to-market strategy. That's what their headache does for B2G products as well. Lastly, they travel a lot. They speak at conferences, they travel, within the country, outside the country, continent, just travel to talk to developers at conferences. So that is why you see certain B2D companies sponsor events. For example, we had DevFest Lagos last year. It has happened for so many years. Paystack, Flutterwave always sponsor this. InterSwitch also sponsors these conferences. MoneyPoint will sponsor this year, I'm sure. They're sponsoring because they want to come and speak to developers to use their products. So it's all about marketing, right? So then if you are a B2D marketer at these companies and your company is sponsoring a conference, you have to go and talk with developers to tell them about your product, how to use them. So that's what they do. They talk, they do workshops, demos, they speak at conference and events just to talk about how developers can use it and convince them to use the product. So this is just a short list of what B2D marketers are doing. They also have these small events, right? So like I mentioned, they travel, so they speak at conferences, they have these workshops. So if you're good at speaking, that's one step, one it's like one bonus away from you because that's actually what the role entails. Apart from writing, you also will go out to talk to people, developers, and ask them what they want and take it back to products, and they come back again and tell them, oh, we've launched this. And that's how you're going to do. We also have local meetups as well happening, especially Lagos, and because that's where the tech capital of Nigeria is. A lot of conference happening in Lagos. People are hosting meetups. That's all what developer marketing is all about, right? Now, what skills do you need to become a B2D product marketer? For one, you shouldn't know, you must not know how to code. You should not be a developer for you to excel in B2D or developer marketing, but you just must understand what developers need. You need to know how to speak their language, right? For example, if you're going to market an API for developers, you need to understand what you're marketing. What's an API? How does a product help developers? Once you've mastered the technical side overview of what you're marketing, you're good to go, right? But we've seen developers who have been coding for years, but are tired of coding. I want to move to a different field. And so they come to B2D marketing because they can speak developer languages. And so they can use that as an easy way to talk to developers. But if you're not a developer, just understand what the product is doing, learn overview, just have this curiosity, understanding, then you're good to go. That's one. You must have a technical understanding. You must not be a badass developer, but just understand what developer terms are and how to market products to them. You're good to go. The second is technical writing. You must know how to write, concise writing, passive, language writing, how to write documentation, articles, guides. You just must write. There's something we call technical sales copy. Now we know we have sales copy, right? How to do copywriting, in B2B and B2C. But the way you do copywriting in B2D is highly different. Developers don't like, selling taglines. That is why we have technical copywriting. So if you know how to do that, that's a skill that is very much needed as a developer marketer. The third is user research. You have to research heavily. An example of this is there was time when while I was still delivery manager at Bonds, we are about to launch the Cypher. The Cipher was a AI smart contract documentation for blockchain developers. We had to launch last year in July. We needed to get 100 people to use the Cipher in 4 weeks. So user research, researching who is going to use the Cipher, where are they? Right? Do we travel to conferences? How do we research developers by personas? Now, not all developers are the same. We have different kind of developers. We have front end, back end, DevOps. We have those with AI. We have a lot of blockchain, different kinds of developers. And so that was what we did earlier when we had the Cypher. We asked ourselves, who is going to need the Cypher? Where can we find them? What conferences do they attend? Began to search. So that's a whole lot example of user research and personal development. When you break it down, it's easier for you to know where to channel your money in or at, where to go, where not to go. And so we've seen cases where developer marketing managers are given heavy budgets, then they spend it in sponsoring conferences that don't make sense to them. For example, if you are a let's say, for example, let's look at the blockchain space because that's where I'm currently at, the blockchain development marketing. Let's example, let's go back to example, and they say we want to launch the Cypher. The Cypher was AI documentation of a smart contract. We needed people who wrote smart contracts, smart contract developers were our targets. So if any conference comes and say, please sponsor us, we will not sponsor them because they don't have our audience. We only sponsor conferences or events that have developers who can use the Cypher. And so if a front-end developer conference come and say, give us money to sponsor, we can't sponsor because you don't have our audience. So without this user research and personal development, you will spending money on conferences that do not give you return on investment for your money. And so that's bad investments. So one skill, user research and personal development is very important as a B2D product marketer or a developer marketer. Fourth is public speaking. We've talked about conference events, presentation. You must know how to present, create slides, be on stage, talk to people. Again, if your company is spending dollars, millions of dollars, $1,000, millions of naira to a conference, you must go on stage to talk. You must talk well to please developers to use your product. So public speaking is important, and being on stage to talk is also very important. Community management this is the last skill. I think the other skills, but it's like core skills, how to manage a community, right? Although we have community managers as a core role, but development marketers too need to understand how to manage communities in terms of how do we, get developers in a group, how do we engage them? There's also part of that as well. So all these skills are important to strive or actually start a career in developer marketing as a beginner or even as an advanced career as a B2D product marketer. Career options. And I've been talking for long, but if you have any questions, please feel free to use the text or raise the raise hand feature. I will stop and answer your questions. Career options for for B2D product marketing managers. There are lots. For one, we have the official development marketing manager role. That's official. We have the content marketing manager, B2D, so we have content marketing managers for B2C and B2C and B2B. We also have one for B2D, right? We have product marketing managers for B2D. We have sales engineers targeting, B2D enterprise, B2D or B2B2D. So we have B2B2D. That also works as well. Marketing engineers. Now, this marketing engineer role, we have new roles coming into the picture. I saw a community engineer role sometime last week. So different roles are coming up, but still have the same description or interchangeable roles as, developer marketing and B2D product marketing. Developer manager, developer relations manager, which is senior level part of developer marketing. We have developer advocates for awareness. Now, developer advocates are highly technical people, but the companies who don't need you to be technical, just create awareness and you're fine. And so you can actually come in as developer marketer to make this possible. And lastly, program manager for developer programs, or developer outreach, or developer community program manager. So they're different roles, but still under the same. Now, let me give you an example of how this works. That was last week. I got a notification from this website called DevRel Careers. So they specialize in just giving out roles for developer relations, developer marketing roles. You can see here, find developer relations and developer marketing jobs. I saw this from Cloudflare. Cloudflare is a developer first company giving developers access to, they have different functions anyways, but then that's for web developers. So we have VP Develop Marketing Hybrid is actually senior level, Vice President of Develop Marketing senior level role. Salary is 660 to 380K yearly annually. This should be before tax, I think. Develop Marketing Manager Meta is a US based role, full time, 12217K annually. It should also be before tax. So this is an example of what the role looks like, especially when you know what you're doing. You can easily begin to tackle and apply for these roles. We have a staff develop advocates, as mentioned, also part of the role as well. AI, ML, developer relations engineer. Engineer, of course, means you're technical, so that may not work if you don't really have strong technical background. Dev manager is here, dev engineer. So this is an example of companies that are currently hiring, and DevRel carriers focus just giving roles for DevRel and develop marketing roles as well. Now, if they click, let's click on this. Let's click on Meta. Look at the job description just to understand if we are aligned. All right. So job responsibility says deliver developer assets built around the marketing flywheel, awareness, education, engagement. First, you get it. So we have engagement, community engagement, education, teaching, presentation, all of those things come in here. Awareness, how do we create awareness for developers? Where do we go? What content do we write? What conference do we go to offer awareness? Build, execute marketing plan, go-to-market strategy also here as well. Oversee creative strategies, developer events, we've seen that already. Digital campaigns, provide regular business scorecards, and all of those things. Yeah, so that's example of this role. I think it also matches what this was actually senior level role for VP developer marketing. I just wanted to see what the job description entails. Or there's also going to be a high level. Okay, for example, say develop and executes a development strategy that's awareness, activation, conversion, own and scale developer generations, more like the same thing. So yeah, content, you have to content writing for content strategy, blog, documentation, all of this, the go-to market is there as well. Yeah, so that's pretty much what the role currently entails for a developer marketing manager, right? So that's about the career options for that. There are also different career options, but once you know what you're doing and you see a role that matches what you can do, you can easily apply, and of course you can get it as well. So the advice for getting to this role is to learn and pick a niche, right? So because there are different roles, you can decide to be a full development marketing manager. You can decide to specialize in content only or community only or events only. It depends on where your strength lies. If you can do all of them, that's fine. But learn first and pick a niche in the B2D space. For PMX School is designed basically for B2D marketing, right? So we have this highly designed curriculum, 7 modules with 7 projects, and final project, capstone project before certification, right? So it's designed heavily to provide what you need to become a B2D product marketer. And just go to the website, you definitely see a lot of information there. We're launching officially in the next few weeks. Once we launch, every other thing will be accessible for those who want to be a B2D product marketer. But we already have an arsenal of videos on YouTube, about 93 videos we have on the YouTube channel where you can learn for free from different articles. We've hosted a lot of DevRel experts across the world, from podcasts to short videos to webinars, to courses, like 4 courses on the YouTube channel as well. So take your time, go over there, PMS School at YouTube, and you can easily learn all you want to learn from B2D while waiting for the official launch for PMS School platform for you to dive even more deeper, get access to resources and mentors for the more intensive B2D training that we offer at PMS School. So that's pretty much all I have today. And thank you so much for joining, Chris and Moses. The record will be available and will be shared to all of the 65 persons registered. I know time zone too can also be a problem because I've had about 30 who joined in from the Asian side of the continent. But that's by the way. So thank you so much, Chris and Moses. Any questions so far from what we've discussed? You can use a text, you can use a voice, you can use your hand about what we've discussed so far. Any questions? Okay. So I think silence means no questions. I will give a couple of moments in case anyone is typing. Okay, that's all right. I'm assuming that you all had me clearly across the 30 plus minutes that we have spoken. Yo, thank you very much, Moses. I appreciate your confirmation. Awesome. All right. The recording will be shared via email to everyone, just in case you want to double check. And also, please do take time to visit Premier School, also the YouTube channel, to access all of the resources we have there as well. Really appreciate your time and thank you very much. I'll see you next time. Bye.